Hi, I'm Jen.
I'm Courtney. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So tell me about how you know Dr. Danny and how you got to know him.
Great. Dr. Danny and I are part of a Dominator style meeting every Monday that we meet at a studio and talk business and network and life. So Dr. Danny walks in the Dominators meeting. We had met the Dominators a few times before that. It was me, Steve, Erica, who works for Steve as well. She sells dresses at the studio. And Dr. Danny walks in. I've heard a lot about Dr. Danny from Steve because they'd known each other for years and they work out together. And I'd really never met him before, so I didn't know anything. I just knew that Steve spoke very highly of him. So I was excited to meet him. And he walks in, and he is very intelligent, as you know, and he knows a lot of things. And he's very interesting to listen to. And as the meeting progressed, it was only the three of us, Steve, me, and Danny that day. He looks at me and says, "Can I analyze you?" And I was like, "Sure." And I had no idea what I was in for.
Okay.
So he proceeds to tell me, at the time, what I think is like every weakness of mine, every strength, but that's not what I hear. And just basically everything in my life that is known to be true.
Okay.
So that, of course, totally freaks me out,
Okay.
and it put me in a funk for a couple days.
I can understand
Understandably.
why. Right.
So a few days later, he Facebooks me and asked if I was okay. And I honestly said, "Yeah, you freaked me out a little bit." And he was like, "No, I didn't mean to freak you out. I was, meaning to encourage you." And I had also talked to Steve about it too. And I said, "Did you hear what I heard?" And he's like, "No, he heard more of the positives, but of course I just took it negatively."
Right.
Because it's about yourself.
Of course.
So that became the relationship with Dr. Danny and I.
Okay.
He also
So then did you just say to him, like, "So how are you going to fix it?"
No, because my whole thing in my whole life is I've never been able to communicate well or tell anyone what I actually wanted or thought, which is odd because I own a very successful florist business. I do more weddings than anybody in this area. So when I'm on stage or with a client, I'm very confident. I obviously know what I'm doing in that aspect. But in my personal life, I was exactly opposite. I was married when I was super young, 19, after only 3 months of dating somebody that was also ended up being emotionally abusive. So I was trained, like you said, in the formative years when your brain isn't even, mature yet into bad things. So in that area of my life, I became depressed. All the things that you shouldn't be in a marriage, but I didn't know that. So about a year ago, I started doing his Shape Reclaim program through another practitioner, and I lost like 90 pounds.
Wow.
So in that, you really start to analyze things, and you learn a lot about yourself and about health. But any weight loss program isn't merely physical. It's a lot of emotional and psychological. And that part was what I was really struggling with. So Dr. Danny, I think, came in at the perfect time to help me with those things. So fast forward to him talking. He said also in the beginning, he said, "I think we're going to become very close and very good friends." And I was still very confused about how he works. I didn't really know him at all. I just met him that one time. So over the next few weeks at these Dominators meeting, I'm just like sitting there like, what is he all about? How does he know these things? And every time you hear him talk, he's very knowledgeable about pretty much everything. Right. So it's very intriguing. And then we started talking more and more about this program and what it could do.
The program is for you for your psychological well-being, for your physical well-being, or emotional. Tell me kind of how you intended to start the program.
Basically, he told me about it as rewiring my brain.
Okay.
Basically, taking old habits that you've learned throughout, being a child and your upbringing and probably genetic predisposition and be able to rewire those as an adult to be able to live to your full potential and take the opportunities that life gives you and really move forward and move on with those things.
Were there things specifically that you knew you wanted to work on personally?
Absolutely, yes.
And were they related to business or more in your personal life?
More in my personal life. I know that, my business is me, so I know that anything that I do will be reflected in my business life. Mm-hmm. And I do have, certain goals as any business owner would with their own business and everything. But for me, it's mostly personal because I feel like the last 13 years of my life, I kind of put myself on hold. So I'm just really beginning to learn who I am as an adult. And, loving yourself is huge, honestly,
Absolutely.
too.
Tell me about that first experience in the program.
Okay. What I really remember at the first session is he brought me back to about when I was 14 years old. And we, through process of elimination, found out that my female role models weren't the greatest, weren't the strongest for me. And that totally coincides with the history of everything. When I was 14 years old, my grandpa passed away. We lived with my grandma, who was a very hard person to live with. My mom was really under her thumb and did a lot of things that weren't the best for me. So knowing that back then really did shape a lot of how I was now. But for him to know that is pretty magical.
And you got to that point because he was asking you to repeat statements and the way he was watching the way that you would react to them?
I'm not exactly sure.
Or the way you would state them?
Yeah, okay. I'm not exactly sure, but he knew.
Okay. How were you feeling at that point when you made that kind of realization that, wow?
It wasn't anything that I didn't already know, but I guess I was surprised that it impacted who I am now as much as it did.
Okay.
And I was shocked that he would even bring it up or even know.
Or be able to discover that.
Yeah, within the first 30 seconds basically, or a minute or two. It was not very long.
And so tell me about the rest of that session. How long did it last?
The session was probably about 45 minutes. Okay. That was the longest of I think we've done 4. Okay. That was the longest of the 4 that we've done. And it really was, the first part was just repeating some statements, and then he did different techniques. We did some acupuncture, we did some magnetic work, we did some just massage areas or pressure points, some essential oils. He really took a lot of different types of treatment, I believe, and rolled it into one thing. So it's kind of hard to explain.
Okay. And then tell me how you felt after that session.
Okay. I noticed a lot more confidence in my week to go. At the end of the session, he tested to see how long it would have to process. It would have to process for 2 days.
Okay.
I had no idea what that meant. Okay. But on the second day, I got into a big argument with my husband currently. And I was able to stand up for myself, which I had never been able to do before. And it was a big thing for my own self, I believe.
And so you felt kind of empowered by
Yeah,
that.
definitely.
And did you relate it back to the session that you had?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So then what were you thinking? I want another
I was like,
session.
wow, what time? When are we doing this again? Yeah.
Okay.
So he came back the next Friday and did it again. Again, he would ask me to repeat some statements. We did some acupuncture, some essential, there's a lot of different therapies that he uses, and he determines what it is. I think I literally just had to drink a cup of water. So it was very interesting. And basically what I've learned throughout this process is I'm becoming a way better communicator, and I'm not perfect. But before, I would always hold in other people's problems and issues. So it was if they weren't happy or if they weren't, completely okay, I would internalize that.
Carry it yourself.
Yeah, and carry it. And these aren't things that I should even worry about. They're not have anything to do with me. But that's what I would do with them. And also the confidence to be able to actually talk things out and just be confident in my own self that I'm okay who I am, and that other people don't need to be okay with that.
And so what were you expecting before you started this program?
Yeah.
And were you kind of skeptical, how's this going to work? tell me what you were expecting.
I wasn't really expecting anything because I wasn't sure. And to go into it not really knowing, I think, was the best thing that I could have done, because I knew I trusted Dr. Danny, and I knew that he would never, do anything to harm me. Mm-hmm. And I was just literally, I felt like putty in his hands. Like, all right, I knew that I needed to change. I didn't exactly know what I needed to change, but he said, just trust me, trust the process. And I'm like, well, I'm living life anyway. I might as well give it a shot.
And make the most of life,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
And so tell me today, how do you feel, and how has the program changed your life?
Yeah, it's daily, it's still, there's ups and downs as anybody would have. And I feel like going through, the changes which you've lived for so long. I'm 33, so going through my life so far one way, this is a radical change, like within the last 4 weeks. Like, I couldn't have done this on my own, just the mindset and everything. And it's funny because it's not like other therapy, because I've seen a therapist too, where they, express this or tell me about this or bring me back here. This isn't that at all. He doesn't tell me to do anything. He just does these certain, pressure points or acupuncture or these little techniques. And you're like, are we done? He's like, yeah, we're done. I'm like, okay. He's like, you can process for 2 days. Okay. And then
you don't
see
feel
the
like
changes.
A physical, transformation as it's happening.
No.
It's just kind of over time and as you sit with it. And
yeah, well, actually, there was one point, and I think it was the third session, that he gave me a technique, I want to say, to help with being empowered and probably anxiety as well. He had me envision a circle on the ground, and in this circle were all the good things that I wanted for myself. Confidence and success and happiness and anything that I wanted. And then I would drop my gold coins, the metaphorical gold coins, into this circle, and that anytime I could bring the circle to myself, and you could step into the circle and feel all these things. And then moving forward, anytime I have a good feeling or, one of those empowerment moments, that I could, add some more gold coins into my emotional bank and use that to go through my day. And I've actually used that technique numerous times throughout these few weeks that I've had it, and it really has. That is a physical thing that I felt right away. But with the acupuncture and everything else too, I don't think you really notice what it's going on when it happens. Okay. But in the weeks after, you certainly do.
So how has it changed your life professionally?
Professionally, because it's affected me personally, and my business is me, it's made me a lot more confident and not willing to, settle for anything less than what's meant for me, I believe.
So in terms of your kind of psychological or emotional state, has it made a big impact?
Absolutely. Yeah, because I believe I've never been diagnosed depressed or anything, but throughout the history of everything, I can see where I've at least struggled with that. With all this mental, things and the emotional, it's definitely improved greatly. And also just the techniques and things that I've, learned through this, they're real things that you can take away with it as well.
If you had 3 words to describe yourself going into the experience or this program, what 3 words, how would you describe yourself?
Unsure would be one. Maybe young, feeling a little young, and maybe a little skeptical too, just in life in general. But then now going forward, I feel a lot more confident and sure, I think, in, my choices. And that's one of my goals, is I want to be sure of a lot of things that I choose to do. And hopeful, I think, is another one that I would choose now.
Have you noticed anything physically that's different about you since going through the program?
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely way more moments of clarity mentally, and more decisiveness, I believe, too. And also being able to speak your mind the way that you want to is, I think, huge for me, at least, because I really haven't ever had that before. So to be able to express what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking at the time I'm thinking it, because I'd always be before, know what I wanted to say, but I would never be able to say it at the time because I don't think I was confident in myself enough to do it. So it'd always be like mulling it back later, which never works.
Should have said that.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
But now it's like in the moments when you're, you know, the opportunity to say something comes, I'm not afraid to say it, which is literally, it's huge. I've struggled with that my whole life. So, yeah.
So different than therapy.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. And what did you like about it the best?
I think it's just so interesting, and to see the results in just a short period of time, because we've only been doing it about a month. And I've been in therapy with, you know, a licensed therapist for about a year, and the progress of the year hasn't compared to this progress at all. So it's super hopeful, very interesting, you know, not typical. And I think that's what makes it intriguing to different people.
So you mentioned the word skeptical when you went in. So as you're talking about this experience with me and maybe with others in your life, how do they react to your experience and what you tell them about the program?
Well, I tell my mom every Friday, she's like, all right, what did he do to you today? You know? And I'm like, well, we did this and this and this. And she's like, okay, she's a very skeptical type of person. And it's funny because I'm like, I don't know what it's going to do, but I can't wait to see, you know, this week. But it is interesting that a little bit of acupuncture, a little magnetic or pressure points or something could bring up, you know, such a change in just the way that you view things and the way that you act. So it's
Have
fun.
other people mentioned anything to you? Have they noticed a change
Yes.
in you?
Yeah,
So what
absolutely.
kind of things are they telling you?
That they can tell that I'm a lot more confident in communication and just happier, I think. Of course, there's roller coasters, but,
Well,
you know,
that's
that's life, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. How long do you intend to continue the program?
As long as he tells me to.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's a thing that you're ever done with or if you're just, you know, you go through enough of it. I'm not exactly sure, but I came in with an open mind and just trusting him. And I've, you know, in just the few weeks that we've been doing, I've seen a great change. So I'm excited for more.
Very good. Thanks.